Hi and welcome back to my channel Modern Modis. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how I made my utility vest. So I was inspired to make this utility vest by this comment from Tanzania. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. So I went and I did my research and I just came across some of the cutest utility vests. I love the way they're styled. I love how they go with a casual outfit. And what I love most about the utility vest is how I can use it as an alternative to carrying around a purse because I have all the pockets on the vest. Now I'm going to get into how I made this utility vest. Okay, so first I traced my hoodie to make my pattern. With my hoodie folded in half, I folded in the hood and then marked at the bottom just above the waistband and traced around the neckline and the shoulder and made a mark at the armpit seam. I drew a curved line from the shoulder to the armpit mark. Then I extended the arm curve by the armpit about 2 inches because I just wanted my vest to be wide enough to fit over hoodies. I marked my line across the bottom and along the side and I cut it out. Then I traced this piece onto my tracing paper and I measured down 6 inches from the center neckline and marked a line from the shoulder down to that mark. I added 1/4 inch zipper allowance and I drew a curved edge here at the center front. Then I cut this out, making sure to add 1/4 hem allowance to the neckline. I want to cut my back yoke separate from the bottom portion as well as the front yoke, so I drew a line on both and wrote in a reminder to add seam allowance when cutting out. I also went and cut out this back pocket piece. For the front, I went and took measurements to figure out what size each pocket would be on the front. Then I cut all my lines where I marked the yokes. So here are my fronts. I'm going to start with this side by lining up the edges of the yoke in front and sewing them together. After sewing the two together, I top stitched. Now here's my top small pocket. I cut a piece of fabric the length and width I wanted my pocket to be and added hem allowance to the sides and bottom edge and 1/2 inch double hem allowance along the top edge. I cut 2 sides that were the same length by 2 inches. A bottom piece that matched the width of my front pocket piece by 2 inches and 2 matching pieces of fabric for my pocket flap. I cut a piece of Velcro for this pocket. I'm going to sew 1/2 of the Velcro to the right side of one of the 2 pieces I cut for the pocket flap. I'm also going to sew the sides to the bottom like this. After I sewed the Velcro to that side, I took the other pocket flap piece and sewed the two together with the Velcro facing inside. I made sure to leave a gap at the top to pull this piece right side out after sewing. Next, I clipped the corners of this flap piece and turned it right side out and then pressed it. I also pressed the front pocket pieces double fold top and I pressed the seams open of the sides and bottom and pressed the double fold at each end like this. Then I pressed one side in at its seam allowance like this. Now I'm going to go and sew the double folded edges in place. I also top stitched around the sides and bottoms of my pocket flap. Then I sewed the corresponding Velcro to the pocket front. Next, I lined up the sides that I didn't press in around the edges of the front pocket piece like this and sewed together. After sewing the sides to the front, I pinned back the sides and top stitch along the edges where the pocket front and sides met. Now with the sides folded back, I traced around my pocket onto the front of my vest and then folded under the edge I had already pressed earlier and pinned the pocket to the front of my vest. Then I sewed the pocket on. I pressed the pocket, and the next step would be to tack the corners down here, but I chose to skip this step, so I'm going to move on to attaching my pocket flap like so. Now for the next pocket, I cut 2 pieces of fabric for the pocket flap, the pocket front, the pocket sides, and a piece of fabric for the D-ring I'm going to add to this pocket. First, I'm going to sew the sides to the pocket front. Then I pressed open the seams, pressed in the bottom edge, pressed in the top double fold edge, and then I pressed in the sides of this fabric for the D-ring. I went and sewed the D-ring strap sides in place as well as the pocket's top double fold. Then I pressed the seam allowance at the sides. I cut some Velcro for this pocket and sewed it to the front pocket and to one of the pocket flaps just like the last pocket. Then I placed the two halves of the pocket flap together like this with the Velcro sandwiched in between and sandwiched my D-ring strap in between the layers as well, making sure my D-ring was centered and at the bottom side of the pocket. I sewed these together, again leaving a gap at the top to pull it right side out. I clipped the corners and pulled my pocket flap right side out. Then top stitched around the three sides of the pocket flap. Again with the sides folded in, I marked around my pocket and then folded in my sides and sewed them to my vest like this, making sure the bottom edge was folded under as well. Then I folded under the bottom edge and pinned it to my vest. Now I'm going to top stitch along the sides here and then sew the bottom edge in place. Last, I sew my pocket flap to the vest. The last pocket for this side will be fanny pack style with a zipper. So I cut the front, top, sides, and bottom. I'm going to sew the top to the zipper like this and then sew the front to the zipper as well. Using my zipper foot, I sew the zipper to each side and top stitch along the zipper as well. Next, I sewed my sides on, making sure to sew up until the remaining top matched the width of the sides. I'm going to line up the top edge of the sides with the sides of the top like this, and then sew the bottom piece to the bottom edge of the front and sides as well. Once the pocket is sewn, I folded under the edge and pinned it to the vest like this. Then I sew this pocket onto my vest. Now this side is done, and now I'm going to move on to the other side of my vest. I created a strap for this keychain clip the same way I created the strap for the D-ring, and I centered and sandwiched it between my top and shoulder yoke and sewed the two together and top stitched the same way I did the other side of my vest. For the pocket on this side, I'm going to do a zipper pocket with a flat pocket as well. So I cut my main pocket in a rectangle piece to create the zipper hole, and then the pocket flap pieces, the pocket front, and the pocket side pieces. First, I'm going to sew around that rectangle I drew, which is the length of my zipper and the width of my zipper teeth. Once sewn together, I cut down the center line and along the triangle sides at the ends like this. Then I turned the piece to the other side of the fabric and pressed it in place. Next, I'm going to sew it to my zipper like this and sew the sides to the pocket front. After sewing that together, I also sewed my Velcro to the pocket front and pocket flap, and I'm going to sew the two sides of the pocket flap together, again leaving the top open to pull right side out. I pressed in the double fold of my pocket front and sewed it in place. Then I trimmed the edges around my zipper and accidentally cut my outer fabric. You know what, I was too tired at this point to do it all over, so I continued trimming the edge, pressed in the sides of this piece, hoping you wouldn't be able to notice by the time I was finished. Then I turned my pocket flap right side out and pressed that as well. I'm going to attach the pocket to this piece the same way I attached my second pocket to the other half of my vest front, and I sewed in my pocket flap. Next, I went and folded under the edge I pressed and pinned this piece to my vest front and sewed it onto the vest. Last, I'm going to attach a pocket here exactly like this pocket without the D-ring. For the back, I centered a D-ring between the yoke and back piece and sewed them together. I trimmed the D-ring strap and top stitched. Then I went and pressed in the right sides and sewed in the top double fold and pinned this pocket to the back. I sewed along the sides and down the center. Next, I sewed the shoulders together of the fronts and back, adding one more D-ring to the shoulder of the front with the 3 pockets. I pinned my zipper to the front and sewed it in place using my zipper foot. Last, I created straps for this clasp the same way I did for the D-ring and sewed it to my vest. So I decided to just put one of the clasp on. So all I need to do now is assemble the lining and attach it to the vest and close the sides. For the lining, I added 1 zipper pocket and 1 plain old pocket here. I attached the back lining and front linings at the shoulders. Then I attached my lining to my outer vest along the sleeve holes in the front and neckline. I clipped along the edges and cut any bulky sections out of the seam. Then I turned the vest right side out, pulling the front through the shoulders. Next, I pinned the sides together like this and sewed them together. I folded the vest like this so that the bottom edges met and the right sides of the vest were inside, and sewed along the bottom edges, leaving a gap in the center to pull the vest right side out. I pulled the vest right side out and pinned that opening at the bottom closed and sewed around the entire perimeter of the vest as well as around the shoulders. And that completes this project. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for my next video. Yeah, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram and on TikTok. I don't post much right now, but I have a plan, and I'm going to start posting soon, hopefully. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!